North Korea had this event, and then the Chinese delegations attended, led by Lieutenant General Xia Zhihe, political commissar of the National Defense University. Now, the problem is the political commissar of the National Defense University should be this guy, the fat guy on the right. The reason why he's important is because he was Xi Jinping's major secretary in the military. And last year, it was found out that he got demoted to be some side piece in a defense university, because you go from Xi Jinping's secretary in the military to like the dean of the defense university. You know, that's a huge downgrade, right? And then when this happened, people are like, you know, maybe he had some loyalty issues, maybe he was corrupt. But at least, you know, he once was Xi's trusted ally, so he got demoted to the university. But then it turns out, because they just mentioned that the political commissar of the National Defense University is actually this guy, Xia Zhihe, not him. His name is Zhong Xiaojun, so it's two different people. So now people realize that this guy not only got demoted from there, he has now disappeared from that position as well. So he's no longer at the university, which means what exactly happened to this guy that, you know, he got demoted in the first place, and then now he's gone. Clearly, either Xi Jinping no longer trusts him anymore to the point where he needs to be disappeared even from a national university's role, or the other option, or the second one, which I think happened, is the fact that the person that demoted him wasn't Xi Jinping. So the theory that I have is, because this guy disappeared, the original demotion from Xi's secretary to the university is because he was involved in some big scandal. Something that it wasn't because of loyalty issues, but it was because that he was involved in something for Xi Jinping, but against the rest of the party. So what exactly is that? So this is the answer that I think what exactly happened. Now, you remember I talked about how the 9 generals in the military got purged just days on the 18th, which is last week, or the week before last week. And people, if you read the mainstream stories, it's all about how Xi Jinping has further purged all of his loyal commanders, and that everybody is basically, you know, Xi Jinping no longer trusts anyone, or that he's down the path of Stalin, right? That's what this whole thing was about. But if you actually read between the lines, you get a different story. Because in this editorial, what they've done is they outlined the crimes of those people. So it says, He Weidong and Mao Hua and He Hongjun and 9 others have seriously violated party discipline and are suspected of serious duty-related crimes involving an extremely large amount of money of a grave nature and with extremely adverse consequences. As senior party and military cadres, they have betrayed their original aspirations and mission, lost their party spirit and principles, lost their faith and integrity, and seriously betrayed the trust of the party central committee and the Central Military Commission. They have seriously undermined the principle of the party commanding the armed forces and the system of the CMC chair's responsibility. Okay, so this is the important line. It says these people that Xi Jinping allegedly got rid of himself are, in fact, violating these things. So first, they undermine the principle of the party commanding the armed forces. And then secondly, the system of the CMC chairman's responsibility. What that translates to essentially means that these 9 generals, first, they wanted to plot a coup. Essentially, that's what it means. Because undermine the principle of party commanding the armed forces. Party commanding the armed forces means that the CCP controls the PLA, or the Chinese military. But if they violated that principle, it means that the military wanted to control the party, which means they wanted to plot a coup. And then the second line here says, system of the CMC chairman's responsibility. Now, within the Chinese military, the Central Military Commission, or the CMC, is the overarching sort of civilian office for the Chinese military. Kind of like how the Pentagon is, you have the president, you have the defense secretary, and then you have the joint chiefs, right? So imagine if the military tried to undermine the authorities of the defense secretary, the joint chiefs, as well as the president. So obviously, huge problem if that were to happen, because you would have a military junta on your hand, right? So what they're basically saying was that these generals who allegedly Xi Jinping was trying to purge actually tried to plot a coup. But the problem with this is that Xi Jinping just promoted some of these people like less than 2 years ago. So you're telling me, allegedly, that Xi Jinping promoted these guys. Within 2 years, they want to plot a coup to overthrow Xi Jinping. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. like, because you got to remember, the people that he promoted had been with him for many years. Like, I would say some of them as far as 20 to 30 years ago. So if they wanted to overthrow Xi Jinping, they could have done this like 10 years ago, or maybe wouldn't have supported Xi in the first place. How Xi got here is because he made a lot of friends in Fujian, right? A lot of friends in southern China. And those people, he ended up rewarding him by giving them positions. And in a system where everybody benefits for being, you know, corrupt and for being loyal to that person that they follow, in the case of Xi's faction, those people that follow Xi Jinping, you honestly think that these people plotted the coup to overthrow the person that benefits them the most? That's crazy to me. So what I think actually happened is they tried to overthrow the party that Xi Jinping no longer controls, or the military that Xi Jinping no longer controls. Or in other words, the military is independent of Xi's power. So I think it's a huge indicator to me that these people are in fact still loyal to Xi Jinping. That's a 100% thing, including this fat guy, the guy that got demoted to the university. He is also still loyal to Xi, but because he was Xi's secretary, kind of like, you know how your chief of staff in the in U.S. politics, like your White House chief of staff, your congressional member chief of staff, like it's an integral part of your cabinet, right? So if that guy is demoted and sent to elsewhere, it's effectively means that Xi Jinping lost somebody he can trust really, really deeply. So it's almost removing a lot of the power or a lot of the reach that Xi has in the military. It'd be crazy if somebody was your friend for 30 years and then they turn around and they try to throw a coup. Yeah, I think that happens in movies for sure, but not in real life. I don't think, because like at the end of the day, okay, so let's say, you know, these people, maybe they had really big corruption issues. Xi Jinping realized that. But dude, like to get to where they are today, like what do you think they got, how they got here? It's through corruption. Like they bribed other officials. They used the same methods to get to those positions. And so for Xi Jinping to be like, oh, I didn't realize that these guys were corrupt and that they had been around, you know, me or others for 10 years, 20 years, climbing the ranks. I personally use the same things, you know, the same power plays, the same political stunts to get there. You're telling me that he didn't know that these people were corrupt for 20 years? Like that doesn't make sense to me. So I do still think that Xi Jinping lost power in the military, and that's honestly the core of Xi Jinping. And also something interesting too. There is a slogan that she loves to say, which is called "Great changes unseen in a century." 百年必有大变局. So it just means like within this in a century that we're in, there's unseen amounts of shifts and chaos. It's his like key slogan whenever he talks about things that, you know, he needs to preside over, right? He's saying, oh no, so many uncertainties, I must be the one that controls it all. But since 2025, he has not mentioned this at all. So like in any of the major like reports, the fourth plenum, the third plenum reports, he has stopped saying this stuff. I think that's also another indicator that he's lost power, because, you know, it's like if Trump stopped saying make America great again, you know, it like that, you'd be like, whoa, like what happened to MAGA? That's like the equivalent of what Xi Jinping is saying, basically. Who will replace Xi since he's getting old? Well, the problem is I had my hopes and dreams on certain people, but they didn't make it happen. So I'm just like, you know what? I'll just let it ride out. Eventually, we'll see that things are different, but for now, I think it's just Xi will still remain in power on the surface at least. But who knows in the future what will happen? The 9 generals, like the people that they mentioned in this editorial, the 9 generals, which are these people, they're all Xi Jinping's force, like promotion to force the Taiwan invasion to happen. Like these people are the East Theater commander. They're the top guys in the rocket force. They're the top people in the military that are responsible for coming up with the Taiwan invasion. And so, okay, like again, let's say Xi Jinping, nothing happened to him, you know? He is the one who purged all these people. Like just based on the idea that if you get rid of the people that you put in there to do something 2 years into the job, like you're setting up backwards your progression on that job, right? So at minimum, these people are not going to, like if every 2 years something major happens in the military, like when are you going to be able to formulate a plan to invade Taiwan?